Hey, today we're going to talk about 8.11, sewage treatment. So take a moment, check out the enduring understanding, look at the learning objective, pause the video, review the essential knowledge, and set up your Cornell notes. So this is one of my favorite field trips that I've ever taken as a teacher. Actually, there's another one that I have that's favorite as well. It's been a couple of years due to COVID that I have not taken students, but the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant is found in Greenpoint. It is down the street from, it's down the street from my apartment. And it's really a great opportunity for students to get up there and get up close and personal. And it's also fun to see, those students, these young ladies have graduated from WP, but it's really awesome to get them to see them like really disgusted by the nasty decomposing feces. Anyway, hopefully we will be taking a trip to the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant. Instead of sewage treatment, the College Board really calls it wastewater treatment. I don't know why they call this title sewage treatment, but whatever. I call it like it is, like they name it. But wastewater treatment has three steps: primary, secondary, and tertiary. The primary is more of a physical process, secondary is more biological, and tertiary is more chemical. Keep that in mind. So the primary processing, the first thing they will do is all the sewage comes in. Everything comes in and there is a screen, and usually it's kind of like a screen on a conveyor belt, and this like sewage is flowing in. Now you'll have literally, think about anything that could go down your drain. You'll have food scraps, you might have condoms, you might have tampons, you might have a goldfish, you will have big giant turds, you might have things like sponges, keys, paper clips, anything that is flushed down the toilet or goes down the sink or even enters through the storm drains, which we'll talk about later, will make it into the wastewater treatment plant. So the first thing is it will go through a screen which will grab any of the large solid objects. And 60% of the solids and 30% of the organic waste is removed through this screening process. So smaller things that are not able to go through the screen, or that are able to go through the screen, will not be caught by it, but a lot of substances will. That's the first step. The second step is the grit is removed. So there will be chemicals that are added that allow the little solid particles to kind of clump together, and they will remove some of the grittier materials through the grit removal. And then it goes to a primary settling tank. And this is where the wastewater is allowed to settle. And they have the liquid on top and the solids on the bottom. Those solids are collected and moved over to another area for digestion. We'll talk about that in a second. But the primary settling is part of the primary process. And again, it takes the substances that may be suspended and allows them to settle to the bottom to be collected. Then we go on. One thing that is not removed, and this is not removed for really any of the steps, is we don't take pharmaceuticals. Any pills that you flush down, any hormones, anything like that, these can be endocrine disruptors, and we don't have technology to remove them. At least we don't have cost-effective technologies to remove them from wastewater treatment. The secondary step of the process involves biological processes. So aerating the sewage, and aerating the sewage basically is providing oxygen. So you're bubbling the sewage, which allows the aerobic bacteria to start the decomposition process. So there is anaerobic decomposition and aerobic decomposition. In the aeration process, it's to jumpstart this aerobic decomposition. So you are breaking down the organic material, the carbon-based substances, and producing carbon dioxide. And then after that is done, the waste goes into the secondary settling, which is very similar to the primary settling, but the secondary settling, they're collecting more of the solids that are not dissolved, and collecting that where it goes into a giant container. And these are the big giant egg-shaped things in the Newtown Creek plant. But this is called sludge. It's the solid, like, it's pretty solid, and it's a lot heavily organic material. And the sludge is digested in these big giant tanks at specific temperatures to facilitate the digestion, but it is done in anaerobic conditions. So the digestion, and this is what the girls were looking at in that first little video I showed, where we got to the top of those tanks and we got to see there's a little glass. It was glass. It was closed off, but there was a glass window, and you can see down. You can see the bubbling. You can see the sludge digestion occurring. Now during this process, because it's anaerobic, methane is produced. So this methane must be collected, and at the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant, the methane is used to generate electricity for the plant. And on the tour, this is one of the things that they show the students, and they talk about the process. Now, the secondary treatment, some cities stop at secondary treatment. Some cities continue on to tertiary treatment. Now, at the secondary treatment, almost all of the organic waste is removed. We're removing 70% of the phosphorus and 50% of the nitrogen. However, still 50% of the nitrogen and 30% of the phosphorus could be entering the waterways after we return the effluent to a body of water, like a lake or a river. So this could be a problem because it could lead to eutrophication. So the sewage or the wastewater still should continue on to the tertiary step, but not every city has the capability to do this tertiary process. Again, the pharmaceuticals are not removed. In the tertiary step, the one thing that New York does, we don't do this nutrient removal, but we do disinfection. So disinfection will always occur, and sometimes they'll jump it in with the secondary. I mean, this is just an arbitrary name for it, but like every wastewater treatment will disinfect it. The effluent. Remember, the effluent is what is flowing, the sewage or the wastewater that is flowing out. So the effluent must be disinfected before it is returned. But this would be the extent of the tertiary. Most or a lot of cities do not do the nutrient removal that comes after this. But during the disinfection process, there's 3 methods that we can use to disinfect the effluent. The most common is bleach. Then you can also use ultraviolet radiation, and that will destroy any bacteria or any microbes, anything that disease-causing organisms, E. coli. And another one you could use is ozone. Ozone is a very strong oxidizer, so ozone is very good for killing any sort of microbes. And in fact, when I was in college, I worked at an amusement park at the Mall of America running the rides, and I was running the log ride. That's the one, like the Splash Mountain kind of ride. You ride in this like log-looking thing, and you go down a hill, and it splashes. You're in water. Well, the water always smelled funny, and I was always like on the lookout, like before the people go down the drop. And there's times I've seen people having sex. I saw little kids like getting up and peeing in the water. I see people dumping soda in the water. I see people spitting in the water, and then that same water is splashing you in the face. So I always wondered, like, why does this water, why does it smell so funny? It has a weird smell. The smell was ozone. They put ozone in the water to disinfect the water. So all of the stuff that went into the water and splashing back on your face, it's cleaner. Keep that in mind when you're going on a water ride at an amusement park. There's ozone, and that's ozone that is not going to harm you, but it is going to clean the water before it splashes all over you. So keep that in mind. Now, the last step of the tertiary process is nutrient removal. The problem is that this is prohibitively expensive. So a lot of cities do not have the the facilities to remove excess nitrogen and excess phosphorus. But this is a chemical process, and you don't have to know the chemistry. I don't understand fully the chemistry. That's because New York doesn't do it. So what New York does do, and you will learn a little bit more about in person, we have a combined sewage overflow. And this is because the sewage system is so old, or the infrastructure is old, and all of the wastewater and all of the water that drains into the storm drains goes to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment. Another system would be to have the wastewater from flushing the toilet, your sewage, going to the wastewater treatment plant, and having all the storm water going somewhere else and emptying into another body of water. So having the combined sewage overflow is good because we are able to treat the storm water. There might be organic material, there might be other things that need to come out that shouldn't go into the East River. A lot of the sewage overflow goes into the East River. So the benefit is that the storm water is treated. The bad thing about this is when there is a storm and there's a large precipitation event, if they can't treat it fast enough, whatever's the overflow just gets dumped into the East River. Now that could be water that goes into your storm drain. That could also be water that comes from your toilet. So there could be technically untreated water, untreated sewage entering the East River, entering a body of water. Another funny story, whenever the blackout was in 2010, 2007, whatever that was, when we had the blackout, I was up in Greenpoint and it was hot. It was like a really hot day. I was like, let's go. We went to Coney Island. We took like 3 buses. We're like, why is nobody swimming down here? It's like 95 degrees. Let's go swimming. We're swimming and the park rangers come by with their megaphones. They're like, get out of the water. There's raw sewage. And I realized there was no way of treating the sewage. The wastewater treatment plant down, whatever one treats Coney Island, wasn't able to treat the waste. Guess where it went? In the sewage, and we're swimming in the ocean, potentially in raw sewage. Okay, for your FRQ practice, I would like you to identify a pollutant that is targeted in a wastewater treatment plant and describe the process to remove it. So I hope that this was informative. I am banking on the fact that we are going to get to take a live tour of this facility. I hope that we do, and I will see you soon.